Controversy in video games has always been there since the start. 1976's Death Race shocked many for its depiction of vehicle manslaughter, and 1982's Custer's Revenge was one of the earliest forms of pornography within video games. But one series has always stood out from the others, and today, we're going to dive into the development of the original Mortal Kombat and how it changed gaming forever. Mortal Kombat 1's development goes all the way back to 1991 with the release of Street Fighter II, a revolutionary fighter that brought mainstream success back into the arcades across America. Midway, a Chicago-based company who found success in the arcades in the late 80s and early 90s, wanted to capitalize on the idea. The project was at the helm of 4 employees: Ed Boon and John Tobias, both programmers, Dan Forden, a sound designer, and John Vogel, a graphic designer. Throughout its development, the game was based on Belgian actor Jean-Claude Van Damme and was intended to be a tie-in with his upcoming film Universal Soldier. Unlike Street Fighter II, which used cartoonish sprites, Midway instead used digitized actors, as several arcade titles Midway had developed made use of the technology. Unfortunately, Van Damme was forced to abandon the project due to having conflicts within licensing and also being at the peak of his career. Midway insisted on continuing, and hired many developers' friends within the company to help finish the project. The development lasted 8 months. In October of 1992, Mortal Kombat was officially released worldwide, except the game wasn't originally called Mortal Kombat. For 6 months, the team could not figure out a name for the title, and many names were considered, such as Kumite, Dragon Tack, Deathblow, and Fatality. The team chose Mortal Kombat after the word combat was written on a drawing board, but instead of it being with the letter C, somebody wrote over it with the letter K. Steve Ritchie, a pinball designer for Midway, saw the word combat and said to Ed Boon, "Hey, why don't you name it Mortal Kombat?" And the name stuck. The original Mortal Kombat offers 7 selectable fighters, with all of the fighters' backstory being played out through the game's attack mode and when completing the arcade ladder. The goal is to defeat Shang Tsung, an evil sorcerer who is ruling an island hosting a legendary martial arts tournament. He is being allied by the 4-armed Shogun Prince Goro, a half-man, half-dragon beast who serves as the protector and sub-boss. These fighters include Johnny Cage, a Hollywood action star who is actually based on the cancelled Van Damme project. Cage's design and some of his special moves, including his famous nut punch, are actually based on Van Damme's film Bloodsport. Sonya Blade is a special forces agent pursuing her nemesis Kano, a black dragon mercenary. Liu Kang, whose design is based on Bruce Lee, is a Shaolin monk and main protagonist who uses various fire-based moves. Raiden, who's a god of thunder and protector of Earthrealm. And 2 ninjas. Sub-Zero, a Lin Kuei ninja who is being hunted by the Hellfire Spectre Scorpion, who is seeking vengeance for the death of his clan and family. So what made this game so successful compared to Street Fighter? After all, this game does feature many similarities between the two, but they do have some key differences. Mortal Kombat introduces a 5-button control scheme: high punch, high kick, low kick, and a dedicated block button, which was unheard of for the time. Mortal Kombat 1 also lacks Street Fighter's combo system and instead incorporates a new feature, known as juggling, an idea where the player is unable to control their character until they land back up. Mortal Kombat is also the first fighting game to ever introduce a secret character, known as Reptile, a green ninja who is fought through completing a series of events, and randomly shows up before certain matches to give clues on how to find him. But what stood out could only be said by Mr. Ed Boon himself.
I think if Mortal Kombat did not have any blood in it, it probably wouldn't have had the kind of success it did.
Fatality.
Mortal Kombat instantly became known for its intense use of blood and gore through its fatality system. By doing specific button commands, players have the option to finish off their opponent, an idea based on just wanting to rub it in their face. It spoke well with fans, but not by the media and skeptical parents.
Feel about cutting his head off.
I don't think I'll have this at home, no.
You don't think so?
A little bit too violent.
You look a little startled.
Yeah, it's a little too violent, I think.
That's pretty bad. That's just plain gross.
Remember, this was 1992, the arcade scene was booming and these machines were found everywhere, especially at high public gatherings meant for kids. Kids in one area of the roller rink will do the hokey pokey and the Macarena, while other kids in the back are just ripping each other's heads off in Mortal Kombat. Despite the controversy, Mortal Kombat became an instant success, and like every successful arcade title in the 90s, it was bound to get an at-home release.
Mortal Kombat!
Midway handed the rights to Acclaim in 1993 to develop home ports of Mortal Kombat. 2 handheld and 2 home ports are released on what is now known as Mortal Monday, a reported $10 million ad campaign by Acclaim to help promote the product. Due to Nintendo's family-friendly policy, the Super Nintendo version is heavily censored, with blood being replaced by sweat and many of the fatalities being completely removed altogether. The Sega Genesis and Game Gear versions also shipped censored, but gamers quickly found out about a secret blood code. Once activated, it brought the game back to a more arcade-like feeling, with uncensored blood, gore, and of course the original fatalities. This code soon became one of the most controversial and infamous cheat codes of the 1990s. And sparked a debate over the use of violence in video games and how it can affect children in society. Remember, this was back when there was no rating for video games. Despite Mortal Kombat on the SNES being heavily censored, it does not contain any sort of rating on the box. Sega's release of Mortal Kombat did have a rating system, however it was rated MA13, an age thought to be too low by many parents. This all changed in 1993 and 1994, when a congressional meeting was held to discuss violence within video games and how it can have an impact upon children. Mortal Kombat was one of the biggest targets, along with Sega's own Night Trap, an interactive movie for the Sega CD that also made use of very similar digitized actors. These actions resulted in the form of the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, or ESRB, to provide a rating system to be sold at retail, which is still used today in North America. Despite a decline in the late 90s and early 2000s, Mortal Kombat is still an iconic piece of pop culture. Its sequel, Mortal Kombat 2, was an even bigger success, improving on everything that made the series popular and added new characters, new finishing moves, and more blood. When Mortal Kombat 2 was ported to home systems, Nintendo and Sega learned from their mistakes, and Mortal Kombat 2 was released fully uncensored. For me, Mortal Kombat's always been about a shock value. It was one of the first adult franchises I got to experience as a kid, and even after 25 years, I'm still amazed on how such a quick project turned into a worldwide phenomenon. With new titles still being produced, I hope the series continues to build on what made it so memorable in the beginning, and I hope it just continues to keep shocking consumers.